through Builder Worlds. This is going to be a quick mini video. I've had lots of people ask me to go through how I work with balsa wood for a number of different projects, and this is just going to be me making the doors for Redwall Abbey. I filmed the whole thing. It's too long-winded to put the whole thing into the video. So this is kind of like everything that I shot whilst making the doors as a one-off video, so you can see what I do when I'm working with balsa wood. I like balsa wood, this stuff. I don't know if you see, well, it must be balsa wood everywhere. It's a hard wood, but it's kind of soft to work with. Don't know. I prefer to use it than people who use kind of coffee stirrers and things. I like buying it in large sheets like this. It's all right working with coffee stirrers and making planking and stuff with coffee stirrers, but you can't do that when you need large areas of it. It's much better to do this. I get my balsa wood from proper model shops. Usually I'd like to go and visit my local railway model store and buy it from them, but because of lockdown and everything else, I've been buying it online, and I use the 4D model shop. That's www.modelshop.co.uk. Absolutely brilliant store, loads and loads of raw materials, all sorts of different things. That's where I get my XPS foam from as well. Check it out, you'll be amazed by the kind of things you can buy from those guys. I buy from there. It is a little more expensive than if I go to my local model store, but my local railway shops are shut. They're not essential shops, apparently. Don't go and buy it from places like Hobbycraft. If in the UK, you'll pay 2 to 3 times the amount for a sheet of balsa like this at Hobbycraft than you would at a proper model store. Right. Why do I like my balsa wood? Well, I've already said it before. I said it in the other video. I like balsa wood because I can get it in sheet form like this, which is great. I can also get it, let's have a look, in various square section like this, which is fantastic, and you're only paying 70 or 80p a piece. I can get it in round dowel. I can get it in triangular section. Check that out. It's brilliant. And this is very, very versatile. It's quite soft and easy to work with. You can draw into it with a biro like you can XPS foam, but it's often better to work with an XPS foam if you're making wooden stuff. You can get it in lots and lots of different thicknesses. The door that I'm making in this video is made with 3mm balsa wood, but a lot of the doors on the Redwall model are made with only 2mm balsa wood, and I use balsa wood for cladding as well, and you can get it in like 0.8mm thickness stuff, which is great for bending. It's quite brittle, you have to be careful with it, but it's good for cladding models and that kind of thing. So you can use balsa for all sorts of different things. Right, let's have a look at the kit that I'm going to use, working with balsa wood as well, and then we'll get on with the actual making of the door. Okay, so come over here to the bench, and we'll have a look at what we've got on there, tools and glues wise and that kind of thing. Okay, so these are some of the things that tools and equipment I'm going to be using with, apart from the balsa wood, to do this little project, and I use right across all the models that I make. So first of all, knives. I tend to use Stanley knives, and that kind of blade with the removable blade, and I can't emphasize this enough. These are great, but actually the blunter they are, the more danger they are. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but actually the blunter a knife blade, the harder you have to press to cut with it, the more likely you are to slip. So whether you're using a blade like this or a scalpel or craft knife like this, make sure you're always using a sharp blade. So well worth packs of multiple blades like this, swapping up, changing the blade. Okay, so knives, great. I also tend to keep a pair of clippers around. They're quite useful from that point of view. Steel rule. Some things I definitely measure. I need a steel rule for cutting perfect straight lines. Other times I freehand stuff a lot. And from a freehanding point of view, biros and pencils are always useful. The nice thing about balsa wood is you can carve into it, scribe into it very similarly to the way you would XPS foam, but that way there you can weather it and cut through it and make it more woody. So make sure you've got pins around. I tend to use dressmaking pins like this. I'm going to sneeze. Okay, Okay, I use flat-topped dressmaker's pins quite a lot with these. A, to help me sometimes pin the wood together, and other times so I can use the head of the pins. I'll push throughs and use those as studs on some doors, and I'll cut the backs off with clippers. Or if I'm sticking them into a solid model and it's not going to open and nobody's going to get their hand in, I won't even bother cutting off the back of the pins. But usually I cut the back of the pins off, and I've got studs that go in through the door as well. Okay, adhesives. One of the cool things with Balsa is you can use all sorts of different glues. You can get Balsa cement specifically for working with balsa wood, but it works perfectly well with wood glues, and I tend to use these days Gorilla Wood glue. Incredibly good glue for that kind of thing, but of course slower drying. I also use super glue. I like a brush applied one, and again I tend to use Gorilla super glue. It works very, very well, but the most common glue I use when I'm working with this stuff are solvent based all-purpose adhesives like Yoo-Hoo, which is a clear glue. Of course it smells, so you have to be working in a well ventilated room for that kind of thing, doors and windows open, yeah, but it's good stuff. Right, and then the other things I've got here on my workboard then are two kinds of cardboard that I'm going to be using. Mounting board, that's about 1-2 millimeters thick. That's going to make the bases of the doors that I use, and then thin cardboard free. This is look, cereal box. Great stuff. Going to use that for all the detailing. Right, those are all the tools and equipment I'm going to use, and the balsa wood, which is in this case 3mm balsa wood. Here we go, Orbit 3mm balsa wood, which I'm going to be using to make the doors for Redwall Abbey. Check this out. Right, the first thing I'm doing then is I'm taking my 3mm balsa wood, and here it is, and I'm going to place it, in this case, behind the main door of the Abbey. I'm going to take a biro and I'm going to draw the door onto the balsa up inside the archway. This is mainly because I freehanded this archway, so if I wanted to actually try and find one as an STL, I've done it the wrong way around. I should have found the STL, printed the door and then put that in the model. Okay, there is my rough balsa wood Abbey door shape on my balsa wood. So now I can move the Abbey model out of the way. So cutting out a door like this is the delicate bit. You can see it's not perfect arch, but it'll work perfectly well because it's drawn it from matching the model, so it should be fine. Now I normally like to start on the curve, and what you have to do when cutting balsa wood, I find, is when we're working with 3mm thick, I tend to turn the wood as much as I turn the knife, and be prepared with 3mm thick balsa wood to cut through a couple of times. Don't try and cut it all in one go, because even with a sharp knife it might cause you difficulties. You're much better off cutting once and going around and cutting again. Steady hand, try and stay as close as you can to your black mark. I can feel it this time. I can feel it cutting through onto the cutting mat below. Whereas with the brand new blade, it's 2 cuts should hopefully see its home. You can see that peel away. One cut out door. Hurrah! There's my door cut out. I've got my mounting board. The first thing I'm going to do then, do anything else, is I'm going to take a piece of mounting board and I cut the mounting board to about roughly 8-10 millimeters wide, And I'm going to cut that to the width of the door, like that. And then I'm just going to freehand bevel the edges because it looks nicer. Okay, and here's my door. First of all, I'm going to do then is I'm going to measure the centre of the door, because this is a great big door in the middle of the Abbey. It's 3 inches wide, and this is actually going to be obviously 2 doors. So I'm going to draw a line up the middle, or down the middle, as to it, because that's going to be my markers for my 2 doors. And then I'm going to draw some planks in. Again, I'm going to kind of freehand these. I normally make these planks on a door like this about 8 mils wide. By the time you've drawn in biros, about 10 mils wide. A line with a biro, roughly speaking. I think I'm going to leave that fat one over there. I'm going to do about the same on this side. There we go. Slightly wider plank here, but not a problem. Right, and I'm going to turn it over. So I'm marking the top and the bottom where the middle plank is, because I'm going to join those up. There we go. And do exactly the same. Now, it doesn't matter if they don't match exactly to the planks on the front, because you only ever look at the front or the back at the same time, one or the other. So, but I'm going to make sure I've got the same number of planks. So 4 whacking great big planks running down the door. Same over this side. Working away from that line so I can see how wide I'm making them each time. There, one more. There we go. So lines front and back. Now I'm going to weather it. So taking my biro, I'm just going to draw into the balsa. That's one of the nice things about balsa. It's like XPS foam. You can draw into it, draw in some lines, some knot work. I'll just make that door look more woody. Doesn't really matter too much, but you can see how this balsa's got lines in it anyway, but I'm exaggerating that. I'm wearing it away. One of the things I like to do with a door is wear it at the bottom. So I kind of draw into the bottom, and sometimes at the top of the planks, but here definitely worth wearing in the bottom, because it, it's dragging across all the stonework and all the rest of it. So draw into it like that, and we'll just wear down the wood a bit there, because that's where it gets most of its weathering. And in some cases I like to kind of really go for it in between some of the planks. Again, you can't get draw all the way through, but that's quite cool. It doesn't look much when it's in biro form, but as soon as you start painting it's pretty neat. So you turn it over, do the other side. Okay, next, take my cardboard. This is cereal packet. Cut strips of this 4 or 5 millimeters wide. This is going to make the metal banding that helps hold the door together. I also use this stuff normally to make hinges as well. So where are we? Not much of that on there. Here we go. Again, I'm not really bothering to measure. I'm just going by my eye, but roughly the same size. Then I'm going to stick these strips onto the door on both sides. Now you can use any glue really you like here. PVA, I tend to use Gorilla Glue, but it takes some time to work and don't need to do that. Super glue, I also tend to use Gorilla Glue, super glue, but I'm not going to use that here. I'm going to be using Yoo-Hoo all-purpose solvent based, so make sure your doors and windows are open. because of the smell. And then all I'm going to do, literally, actually, what I'm going to do first of all, he says, changing his mind, so I am actually going to cut the door now in half. Down that line I drew earlier. There we go. Just because this next part is easier if they're slightly apart. But what I am going to do is I'm going to line the door up, make sure it's apart, take my glue strip, take my metal banding strip, apply glue to the back of it, all the way across there, widen the door that's going to be, place it across the base of the door, like that, hanging over both sides. And I'm going to do again and again and again. This is a big door, so I'm going to use 4 bands. Don't want much excess of glue. Use my lines on mat to make sure they're pretty parallel. Then turn it over, glue the other side as well. Pretty much the same height. Leave to dry. Take another strip, cut this to enough to cover roughly three of the planks. I'm going to need 6 of these altogether. These are going to make the hinges. Now we could go for really fancy, but you could probably 3D print really fancy ones if you wanted, I should think. But all I'm going to do is take my 6 bits of cardboard, cut little triangles into the end, and these will all be hand wrought out of iron, so from that point of view it doesn't matter if they're not all exactly the same size. We've got that. Could clip it just as easily. Decide which is going to be the front and back of your door. The front of your door, or the inside of your door, because the hinges need to go on the inside, and I'm going to put a hinge in between each one of these bands. So this is now going to, I need to check actually on the model which is the inside and the outside, because it does only fit one way round. Going to go and offer this up to the model to make sure I've got the right door the right way round. Back in a second. Right, cut your bands off, separate your doors. On the other side. All the bits of banding off, even the bits, especially not the bits sticking to your fingers. There we go, around there. You could do this with a craft knife quite easily. I just happen to have a pair of clippers in my hand, so that's what I'm using. Right, so this is the front, this is the side that's going to be facing out. So I'm going to turn the doors over to stick the hinges on the inside of the door. Because the hinges, we put the hinges on the inside, they're not exposed to an enemy then. Exactly the same. This time they line up in between the strapping like that. We're nearly there. Now there we go. 3 hinges on my huge door. Do the same on the other side. There it is. That's pretty cool. Starting to look like a door now. I'm quite pleased with that. I'm now going to cut out 2 more little rectangles of the thin card. I'm going to cut a whole strip. I'm going to cut a rectangle off that. There you go. Take my clippers and just clip these in. One, about same size. 2, and these are going to go somewhere underneath, I think, this main metal band. I might make them a little smaller. I want to put the handles on those. Some kind of plate. Doors on the outside aren't going to have any kind of handles, I don't think, because the doors on the outside aren't going to be able to be openable from the outside. I'm going to have this kind of building where you can only open this building from the inside. Now, I could some ways do with putting a big locking bar on the inside of this door as well. The difficult thing for burrows and badgers is animals, all sorts of different scales. I'm going to put these two little metal plates on here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go digging through the cack, because I want to see if I can find something that will make suitable door handles. Not all of my doors get suitable door handles, but this is a whacking great big model, and this model deserves proper door handles. And I think I've got just the right thing if I can find them. Look, I put that glue in the wrong place, idiot. Over there, plate like that. Starting to look pretty cool, like that. Back in a minute. Going digging through the cack. Okay, here is the result of digging through the cack. This is a pair of little creatures that were handles from an old Warhammer Fantasy Battle Empire cannon. I've got quite a few of these kicking around. I often use these as door handles, and this is such a special model. Even though it's not for me, I'm prepared to sacrifice these two to put on the door handles on the inside of the Abbey. So, Gary, if you're watching this, I hope you appreciate my sacrifice. Right, so we're taking the results of the digging through the cack. We're going to take a tiny bit of super glue. We're going to blob it onto each one of these handles. Like so, one on there, one on there. We're going to take our little plastic fella. I'm assuming he's going to fit. And we are going to attach it to the super glue. Stand him up. Hope he'll stay standing up. What we should have done is cut the little knobbly bits off first. And then we will have some fancy handles. Now what I've got to do is now leave this alone to dry. Stand up, little beggar. Very nearly there. Look at that. Okay, let's let that glue dry, and then we've got one job or more to do. Okay, so here we are with the doors. Now you'll remember that I did all this weathering down here. I'm going to chop a load of that off now because the base is that thick, so I need to cut that much off the bottom of each door before I stick it on, otherwise it's not going to fit. So take my door, take my ruler, roughly speaking, no I'm not, I'm just going to freehand this. I'm going to draw on roughly where I want it to be. And I'm going to cut off the base of the door. He didn't think about that, did he, before he started doing that? It's one of the things I should have done first of all. Okay. Cutting off a little too much is better than not cutting off enough, because the door won't fit if you don't cut enough. So there we go. You can see how much we can cut off there. Draw that line in, and then I'm going to re-weather the bottom of the door if necessary. Not that it matters too much. Cut that off, so let's just re-weather the bottom of the door a little. So now the inside, it's pretty good on the outside actually. So last job then for this door is I'm going to take my all-purpose adhesive. Oh no, it's not going to be the last job. But one other job I want to do to this door. Let's just screw it, let's leave that. Right, now take base, place glue along base. Now there are two ways I could go with this. I could either take the door and put a reinforcing bar on the back, which might be quite an interesting thing to do. There we are. Or I could have the door slightly open because it's interesting from a painting point of view and we can see where things are. Because this is the main Abbey door, I quite like the idea of just not having a reinforcing bar on this. The front gate will have a reinforcing bar on it, but this one I'm going to have a slightly open angle. So I'm going to put my glue on this base thus. Now I'm going to let it go off for a moment or two, because then this will stick better. So talk quietly amongst yourselves, twiddle your thumbs. Thumb, thumb, twiddle, twiddle, thumb, 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 twiddle, 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 thumb, thumb, thumb. Take my base, take my door, stick my door to my base. Take my other door, stick my other door to my base. Hope that they will go together. It only needs a tiny bit of an angle, but it will just make them more interesting to look at. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to see that all lines up nicely. I am going to run, settle them down there. They'll sit nicely there. A bit of glue at the top just to hold it in place. Otherwise, it's a very, very weak structure, which is no good from a modelling point of view. So I'm going to run a bead of super glue in there, and then I'm going to leave that to dry. I'm going to see what happens there. I'm going to glue them a little bit at the bottom as well, because all that will get covered over when we paint it, but that way there, hopefully. Doors stuck. Let that dry. When they're dry, we're going to stick them in the doorway of the Abbey and see what's what. Okay, so here we have the doors sat in place on the model. Tight fit, and I think there might even be a tiny little bit of judicious trimming when I paint the model, because they might be even tighter fit there, but then they do sit quite nicely. I like the fact they're not fully closed. They've got this bit of angle to them. You can see clearly where each door is, and they look quite effective. Let's go and have a look on the inside. Here we can see the inside of the door. What I am going to do, well, before I paint this, I'm going to add some little hinge plates just in 6 places along the side there, just so they look like that all goes together. But that's a really nice set of doors. I'm very pleased with those. So there you go, one balsa wood door cut out and made to go in the Redwall Abbey. I hope you found that a useful little video working with balsa wood. If you'd like to see other videos like this, kind of like short techniques and methods kind of video, please just kind of like leave comments down below, or give me a shout on the Mahhosive Redwall World's Facebook page, because actually doing little videos is quite a useful kind of thing. So if you want to see other techniques that I do, or other things that I make with balsa wood, then let me know. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave comments down below, and I'll see you next time on a full-on proper build from Mahhosive Redwall Worlds. I'll see you again. Cheers.